Tell me, do you really believe you're free? Or are you just another piece on a board you've never seen? Funny, isn't it? How you move, speak, sacrifice, thinking it's choice, when in truth, you're being moved. In this video, we enter the Chessboard of Souls, a place where loyalty is a mask, kindness is bait, and honesty is the prettiest trap of all. Machiavelli whispers from the shadows. The honest man is not noble, he is naked. Look closely. Every smile hides calculation. Every embrace hides intention. They anticipate your loyalty, devour your predictability, and then call it fate. But the trap is not that you are weak, the trap is that you are readable. Machiavelli's law is merciless. Become unreadable, untouchable. A strategist 2 moves ahead, the pawn's roll is over. The unseen hand rises. You think life is chaos, random, unpredictable, a storm without order, but look closer. Behind every laugh, behind every betrayal, behind every sudden silence, there is design. The truth is not chaos. The truth is calculation. Life is a chessboard, and every soul you meet is a piece already moving, already plotting, already waiting for you to step where they want you to. Machiavelli wrote that politics, loyalty, even love itself, are not governed by morality, but by movement. He saw human beings as strategists, whether they admitted it or not. The friend who flatters you, the rival who insults you, the lover who withdraws, they are all positioning themselves. You believe you are living freely, but in truth, you are standing on a square chosen for you by someone else. This is the first awakening, to see life not as fairness, not as fate, but as a game of power where intention hides behind every gesture. That smile at your expense was not just cruelty, it was a test. That betrayal you carry like a wound was not senseless, it was a move. And like all moves, it demands a response. To Machiavelli, accidents were illusions, even storms have patterns, even chaos follows currents. The man who sees randomness is blind. The man who sees intention begins to rule. When you stop asking, why did they hurt me, and begin asking, what move did they make? You cross the threshold from pawn to player. You strip betrayal of its poison and reframe it as signal. They have shown you their hand. They have revealed their plan. But here lies the trap. Most never escape. They expect fairness on the board. They wait for mercy. They think loyalty will be rewarded with loyalty. Yet Machiavelli understood what the naive never accept. Mercy is not mercy. Mercy is weakness, miscalculated. Fairness is theater performed for the crowd. The chessboard does not reward the noble. It rewards the unreadable. Picture the kings and pawns moving around you. The king does not apologize for striking. The pawn does not complain when sacrificed. The board is indifferent, and so too is life. If you want clarity, strip away the illusion of justice. See every insult as a placement of a piece. See every silence as a knight slipping into shadow. See every kindness as a possible trap hidden in velvet. Because only then do you gain power. When you begin to read the invisible map, the hidden war beneath the casual smile, the storm beneath calm waters, you reclaim authority over your existence, no longer drifting in chaos, no longer stumbling into traps, but watching, anticipating, counting the moves in silence. Machiavelli believed the most dangerous man is not the strongest, nor the loudest. It is the one who reads intention without revealing his own. The one who studies betrayal not as heartbreak, but as data. The one who sees through the fog of chaos and recognizes the board underneath. The law is this: stop believing in accidents, stop believing in fairness. See life as a chessboard, and every person as a strategist moving toward advantage. From this point, suffering no longer defines you, calculation does. Betrayal is no longer a wound, it is a map. And once you learn to see the board, the next step is to decide what mask you will wear upon it. Because here, on this stage of shadows and traps, power is never naked. It is always dressed in performance, and the mask you choose will determine whether you are hunted or obeyed? Funny question before we begin. Do you really believe people show you their real face? Or do you secretly know it's all theater, and you're just the one buying tickets in the front row? In this video, we peel back the costumes because the second truth is brutal. Power is never naked. It always wears a mask. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must appear merciful, faithful, humane, religious, yet know in his heart when to be the opposite. He understood that men are simple. They trust appearances, they worship symbols, they follow faces. But a ruler, a strategist, a survivor cannot afford such simplicity. The weak believe in faces, the powerful believe in performances. Think about it. Your coworker who flatters you, your friend who promises loyalty, your lover who swears eternal devotion. Are they revealing themselves? Or are they wearing the mask most useful in that moment? The mask of ally, the mask of victim, the mask of rescuer, all painted with firelight. To distract you from the dagger waiting behind velvet. And you? How often have you played without a mask, bleeding openly, offering your fears, your doubts, your honesty like gifts? That is why you were predictable. That is why you were disposable. For when the enemy knows your patterns, when your rival knows your weakness, when your lover knows exactly how to wound you, you are not a strategist. You are a script, and scripts are made to be used, repeated, discarded. To Machiavelli, predictability was death. He understood that survival demanded disguise, not to deceive without purpose, but to remain unreadable. He wrote that rulers must be both fox and lion, the lion visible in power, the fox hidden in silence. If you reveal too much, you are hunted. If you hide your intent, you become the hunter. This is why your mask must never crack. Appear loyal, but keep your silence sharp. Appear kind, but hide your claws. Let them see what you choose, not who you are, because perception is not decoration as it is weaponry. The mask is not protection, it is offense on the grand stage of life. Most believe it is reality, but those who see the stage as stage, they are the ones who write the script, choose the lighting, direct the scene. Machiavelli never asked to be understood, only to be obeyed, and obedience is earned not by bearing the soul, but by controlling the illusion. So imagine yourself not as a victim bleeding under the spotlight, but as the masked figure in the corner, controlling the firelight, watching others reveal themselves while you remain unreadable. Your silence will force them to fill the void with guesses. Your mask will force them to miscalculate, and in their miscalculation lies your power. The principle is simple. Never show the whole of yourself. Let people think they know you. While you remain a labyrinth, appear merciful when it benefits you, ruthless when required, faithful only when it serves the larger plan. This is not hypocrisy. This is strategy. Hypocrisy is accidental. Strategy is deliberate to those still clinging. To honesty as a crown, this may feel cruel, but cruelty is not the truth here. Survival is to Machiavelli. This was never deception. It was armor. He knew that love was optional, but control was not, and control is born from performance, not exposure. The law is this: your face is not yours. It is a weapon. To walk through life unmasked is to walk through battle unarmored. The clever will always carve you open, but the masked, the unreadable, the ones who smile while hiding storms, they rule the board. And once you master the art of masks, another power becomes clear: silence. For silence itself is the mask that makes others speak too much, reveal too much, expose too much. And when you master silence, you no longer play the game loudly. You let the game collapse into your waiting hands. Tell me something. Have you ever noticed how people panic in silence? How a single unanswered question, a pause too long, makes them scramble to fill the void. It's almost funny. They think noise is power, but in truth, noise is exposure. Words spill secrets, explanations bleed weakness, but silence is a blade pressed against the throat of the impatient. Machiavelli understood this. He wrote that men betray themselves not through action, But through speech, the one who rushes to explain himself becomes naked before the court of perception. The one who withholds becomes unreadable, untouchable, a mask of stone that no arrow can pierce. Picture a battlefield. One side screams, banners raised, drums thundering, the other waits in eerie stillness. Which side holds power? The one that shouts or the one that makes shouting seem desperate? Silence is not retreat. Silence is the king's gambit, the sacrifice of noise to gain a stronger position. You think you lose by saying nothing. You believe silence makes you smaller. That's the lie. In reality, silence forces the enemy to imagine your strength, to invent your motives, to conjure storms in their own mind. The imagination is crueler than any confession. They will fear what they cannot read. They will stab at shadows until their own blade turns inward. Machiavelli believed that silence was often louder than action. He saw that men crave certainty, and when you refuse to provide it, they unravel. A pause becomes an interrogation chamber. A glance becomes a verdict. They will beg you to speak, not because they care what you think, but because they cannot bear what you withhold. Silence is a fire without smoke, a storm without thunder. You do not see it, yet it consumes. The weak man fills silence with chatter, thinking it proves confidence. The strong man lets silence expand until the other suffocates. To remain silent is not to disappear. It is to make the other reveal themselves. Imagine a court filled with rivals. One speaks endlessly, his words spilling across the marble floor. Another argues, another flatters, another protests, and then one figure sits unmoved, lips sealed. Who commands the room? Not the loudest voice, but the quietest presence. This is Machiavelli's paradox. Control through withdrawal, dominance through absence. You want to defend yourself? Stop. You want to announce your plans? Don't you want to prove your worth? Resist. Every explanation ties a rope around your neck. Every justification surrenders a piece of your power. Machiavelli never asked to be understood, only to be obeyed. Silence is not passive. It is active war disguised as stillness. It is a trap sprung in the mind of the other. They lean closer, misinterpret, overreach, and expose themselves. You win not by pushing, but by waiting. The impatient general marches into the ambush. The impatient rival talks himself into ruin. And so the law is this: guard your words like treasure. Speak less than is safe. Reveal less than they expect. Answer less than they demand. Each withheld word is a fortress wall. Each silence is a battlefield cleared of traps you did not need to set. To Machiavelli, silence was never emptiness. It was weaponry. It was the king's gambit, the surrender of noise to win the war of perception. The one who controls silence controls the battlefield of minds. Learn this shift. Stop defending. Stop explaining. Stop announcing. Withdraw into stillness and let them choke on the space you leave behind. The king does not need to shout. The king only needs to wait. Have you ever noticed how people respect fire more than water? Everyone loves warmth, but no one forgets the burn. It's strange, isn't it? You can be kind for years, but the moment they believe you cannot scorch, your kindness becomes cheap in. This video, we move to the fourth law on our dark chessboard: fire and calculation. Because silence alone does not rule. It only prepares the ground. At some point, power must show its teeth. Machiavelli warned, mercy without the possibility of wrath is not mercy at all. It is weakness dressed as virtue. He saw rulers who confused kindness with strategy, and he watched them fall. To him, control was never about pleasing the heart. It was about balancing fear and loyalty so precisely that people could not tell if your flame would warm them or consume them. Imagine a torch carried by a king. In one moment, he lifts it to light the hall, bathing the throne room in safety. In the next, that same torch can be cast onto oil, turning the chamber into an inferno. The torch itself has no morality. Its meaning lies in how the hand decides to use it. And here lies the paradox. The ruler who burns blindly, consumed by rage, loses as surely as the one who never burns at all. Uncontrolled fire destroys indiscriminately. It turns allies into ashes alongside enemies. But calculated fire, chosen, deliberate, cold in its timing, becomes law. It reminds all who witness it that loyalty is survival and disobedience is ruin. Machiavelli wrote that men must be either caressed or destroyed. Anything in between invites revenge. But he also understood the danger of constant cruelty. If fear turns into hatred, revolt will rise. Fire must therefore be measured, scorching just enough to etch the memory of your wrath into their bones, but never so much that they unite against you. Think of anger. Most believe it is an explosion, a release. They shout, they rage, they strike blindly. But anger uncontrolled is a confession. It tells the world you have been moved, shaken, provoked. Machiavelli saw that true power does not rage. True power calculates, it does not scream. It sentences, it does. Not react, it executes. The executioner's axe does not tremble, it does not justify itself, it falls once. And in falling, it teaches everyone else what silence could not to spare or to destroy. Both must be decisions weighed like gold, not emotions thrown like sparks. Picture the court again. One rival defies you. Do you crush him? Perhaps not. Perhaps you let him live but scarred. His downfall public, his lesson eternal. Another rival mocks you and whispers, do you ignore him? No. You select the moment, the stage, the audience. And then with one act of fire you erase not just his laughter but the very thought of laughter in others. That is calculation, and yet, fire is not always flame. Sometimes it is concealed, the velvet glove that hides the ember, the soft word that carries the weight of thunder. A ruler does not need to punish often. He needs to punish memorably. One example can silence 10,000 threats. Machiavelli never asked to be loved. He asked only to be obeyed. And obedience, he knew, comes from the cold recognition that mercy is conditional, that fire is always possible. People respect what can wound them. They obey what they fear losing. So the law is this: do not confuse anger with strategy. Do not burn from impulse. Burn by design. Fire, in your hands, must never be expression. It must always be execution too. Machiavelli. The ruler who balances fire with calculation becomes untouchable, loved enough to be followed, feared enough to be never betrayed. The fourth law of the chessboard is clear. Fire is not chaos. Fire is judgment. And judgment, once delivered, reshapes the entire game. Tell me, why is it that people want you the most when you're not around? Strange, isn't it? They ignore you when you're near, yet chase your shadow the moment you vanish. In this fifth law of our chessboard, we arrive at the art of strategic distance. Fire teaches fear, but distance teaches desire. And Machiavelli knew that rulers who become too familiar lose their crown long before it is stolen. Proximity weakens perception. Stand too close and your edges blur. Your flaws are magnified. Your aura dissolves. Familiarity breeds not loyalty but contempt. The servant who sees the king every hour forgets he is a king at all. The lover who is always present becomes ordinary. The leader who is always available becomes disposable. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must remain both seen and unseen, present enough to command, absent enough to inspire mystery. Distance creates mystique. Mystique breeds reverence. Reverence becomes obedience. Think of the sun too close and it blinds, burns, destroys too far, and its warmth is forgotten. But at the perfect distance, the sun sustains life and demands worship. So too with power you must learn the rhythm of approach and withdrawal, the dance of presence and absence. Your constant availability is your downfall. The world is glutted with noise, with faces, with desperate performers, but scarcity breeds hunger. When you step back, when you vanish into silence, your absence begins to whisper louder than your presence ever could. People wonder, where is he? What is she thinking? What will their next move be? This is no accident, it is design. Distance is not neglect, it is weaponry. To be unpredictable in presence is to force others into speculation, and speculation is the birthplace of fear, of admiration, of longing. Imagine a banquet. One guest speaks endlessly, his words spilling like wine, drowning the table. Another speaks rarely, one remark, cold and precise, and then silence. Which voice lingers after the feast? Not the flood, but the drop. The one who withholds becomes larger than the one who pours. Machiavelli believed that silence was often louder than action, and absence more commanding than presence. He understood that love was optional. Control was not, and control thrives on mystery. So learn to withdraw. Learn to let the silence around you expand until it presses against the minds of others, filling them with questions, doubts, fantasies. Distance paints you as larger than life, not because you are greater, but because you are unseen. The phantom always feels more powerful than the soldier standing in the light in war. The general, who hides his movements, terrifies the enemy more than the one who marches openly. In politics, the ruler who speaks rarely bends ears more sharply than the one who floods the court with chatter. In love, the figure who disappears leaves behind a hunger that memory alone cannot satisfy. Do not chase validation. Do not announce your every move. Do not beg to be remembered. Instead, vanish, strategically, deliberately, with calculation. Let absence gnaw at their certainty. Let your withdrawal become a mirror, forcing them to confront their own dependence on you. Machiavelli never asked to be understood, only to be obeyed. And obedience flows not from familiarity, but from distance. The one who is always near can be questioned, challenged, reduced. The one who withdraws becomes untouchable, a shadow on the chessboard, a mystery too costly to provoke. Remember, shadows grow longer as the light retreats, and your aura expands when you step back, and when you finally return, you are not the same. You are magnified, sharpened, feared. The fifth law of the chessboard is this: ration your presence like gold. Do not squander yourself in constant exposure. Withhold, withdraw, disappear, so that when you return, your silence has already spoken for you. Strategic distance is not absence. It is power stretched across time. It is the unseen hand moving pieces no one dares to touch. And in that silence, in that withdrawal, the board itself begins to bend to your design. So tell me, why is it that every time you lose, people say, "I saw that coming"? Strange, isn't it? They never warned you before, but afterward, they claim your downfall was obvious. Perhaps it was. Perhaps you've been too easy to read. This is the sixth law of our chessboard, the trap of predictability. And Machiavelli knew that predictability is not comfort, it is death. The moment your rhythm is known, your enemy writes your song. The moment your steps are familiar, they set the trap beneath them. Think carefully. Your routines, your reactions, your little habits of speech, they enslave you. They become a script you did not mean to write, a performance you repeat until others learn their lines better than you. The weak call it consistency. The powerful call it chains. Machiavelli wrote that a ruler must be both fox and lion, never one without the other, never bound to a single rhythm. To be fixed is to be cornered. To be cornered is to be broken. Your predictability is their weapon. They know when you will forgive, when you will rage, when you will retreat. They know your patterns of generosity, your habits of honesty, your weakness for flattery. And because you always react the same way, they own you long before the game begins. The most dangerous thing you can be is reliable. Reliable to a rival is exploitable. Reliable to a lover is forgettable. Reliable to an enemy is dead. Look at the storm. It does not fall at the same hour. Each day it strikes without pattern. Thunder rolling where no map can predict. That is why the storm is feared. But the river, always flowing, always gentle, always in its bed. No one fears the river. They build houses upon it. They tame it. They drain it. You must learn to become the storm. Unreadable, untrackable, capable of shifting direction without warning. Controlled, unpredictability. That is the essence of power. Do not mistake this for chaos. A fool who thrashes without reason is no less predictable than the man who sits quietly. His pattern is simply disorder. No, true power is controlled variety, change. Not for the sake of confusion, but for the sake of control. Machiavelli believed that silence was often louder than action, but unpredictability was sharper than both. He understood that when your enemy cannot guess your move, they waste energy guarding every door, watching every shadow, suspecting every silence. And in that exhaustion, they crumble. Imagine a snake shedding its skin. It appears the same creature, yet each layer is discarded, each form temporary. This is survival, never allowing the predator to grasp what it truly holds. The snake that remains the same is caught. The one that sheds is eternal. Your habits are footprints, burn them. Your emotions are signals, break them. Your words are maps, redraw them. Every expectation you shatter is a weapon placed in your hand. Think of the chessboard. The opponent expects your pawn to move forward, but what if the pawn is a decoy, a trapdoor to something else entirely? What if the move they thought was certain collapses beneath their feet? This is how power is maintained, not through strength, but through the terror of not knowing. Withdraw when they expect advance, advance when they expect retreat. Speak when they expect silence, and grow silent when they demand words. To Machiavelli, this was never chaos. It was the purest calculation. The art of being untouchable lies in becoming unreadable. Predictability kills awe. It kills fear. It kills desire. The lover who always answers. The leader who always forgives. The rival who always strikes. Each is a prisoner of their own routine. But the phantom, the storm, the snake shedding skin, these are never captured, for they are never fully seen. The sixth law of the chessboard is this: break your patterns before your enemies build their cage. Never be where they expect you. Never move as they predict. Let every step carry the possibility of thunder. Unpredictability is not madness. It is mastery. It is not noise. It is strategy. And when you wield it, every piece on the board hesitates, wondering not what you will do, but what you might. In that hesitation, power is yours. They will laugh at you if you wear no crown. They will laugh louder if you wear one made of gold, yet still beg them to polish it. Tell me, what is a throne worth if it trembles every time a servant frowns? Machiavelli wrote that the prince who depends on the love of his people has already chained himself. For love shifts like the wind, but fear, respect, and perception endure. And so the question becomes, will you be ruled by the applause of others? Or will you enthrone yourself with the crown no one can remove? The invisible crown is forged not in courts of marble, but in silence. It is shaped in the storm where no hand reaches to steady you, where no voice calls your name, where you stand alone and yet stand upright. Those who need affection are bribed by it. Those who do not become untouchable. A man who can be purchased with love is already sold. Consider the performer who feeds on claps. His soul is shackled to the mood of the crowd. Today they stand, tomorrow they turn away. His worth flickers. Like a candle in the draft, contrast him with the sovereign who needs nothing from them. His silence is heavier than their thunder. His presence forces acknowledgement. He is iron beneath velvet. The crowd does not grant him power. They orbit it. Machiavelli believed that when the hunger for approval dies, command begins. To him, love was not strength. It was liability. He wrote that the prince who places loyalty above authority courts betrayal, and yet the one who makes loyalty unnecessary by standing rooted in his own dominion becomes unassailable. For men respect what they cannot sway. The throne of inner authority is not decorated with jewels, but with self-respect. It is not carried into the banquet hall by servants. It is carried within, unseen, unshakable. Picture it, a crown of iron, polished not by applause but by endurance. A throne carved not from oak, but from refusal. Refusal to kneel for validation. Refusal to crawl for affection. Refusal to barter. Dignity for temporary comfort. When you enthrone yourself, everything shifts. You no longer ask, do they like me? Do they see me? For such questions are the chains of beggars. Instead, you declare silently, I am already crowned. Their recognition is irrelevant. And in that detachment, something paradoxical occurs. The applause you once chased arrives on its knees. The loyalty you once begged for is offered freely. The ones who once doubted you whisper your name in awe, because nothing bends men faster than a sovereign who cannot be bent. Look at the battlefield of souls. Most are pawns, running toward approval, sacrificing themselves for recognition. They believe they are free, yet each cheer enslaves them. Each rejection breaks them. But the player who wears the inner crown? He moves like a king. He does not chase, he commands the board with silence. His power felt even in absence. That is the true Machiavellian stance. Not loud, not desperate, cold, sovereign, inevitable. Understand this. Crowns given by others can be taken, crowns carved by your own will. Cannot kings raised by applause fall with boos, but kings crowned in silence remain, even when abandoned. Machiavelli knew, a ruler's greatest fortress is not stone, but the refusal to need so withdraw. From the market of approval burn the throne they offered you. Fragile and false, build your own within, iron under velvet, flame under calm. Then watch as they kneel, uncertain whether to call you cruel or divine, unable to decide if you are storm or silence. The law is simple. The sovereign who enthrones himself cannot be dethroned. The chessboard is no longer hidden. Every soul moves with calculation. Every smile masks intent. Every silence holds weight. You have learned Machiavelli's art: to mask yourself, to weaponize silence, to wield fire with control, to create distance, to break patterns, and to wear your inner crown. Now you are no longer the pawn who reacts, but the hand that dictates the game. 2 moves ahead, unreadable, untouchable, the unseen strategist. Let them wonder where you are. Let them choke on your silence. Let them realize too late that they were always behind you. This is not cruelty, this is survival. This is the legacy of power. Reposition, withdraw, strike, rule. The chessboard is yours now.